Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and here we explore the fountain pen world. And today I am looking at the Admok M400. Now, if you're a member of the channel, you know that I recently did an unboxing of two Admok pens, the M800, which has been around for quite a while, and then the Admok 28, which is a vintage-inspired pen that I think is a little bit intriguing and wanted to try out. But these are not my first Admok pens. This is my first Admok pen. I've had this for 19 months. I had to go look it up. I've had it so long, I couldn't remember when I got it. But yes, August of 2024, I bought this pen and wasn't really sure what I wanted to think about it. I know what I think about it, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to think about it because it is, I mean, clearly you can see what we're doing here, right? This is a clone, an homage, if you want to be a little bit more graceful, of the Pelikan M200. It's a piston filler pen with lots of very similar design cues. Now, we're not going to argue today about whether that is good, bad, or ugly, because I bet you we all have our opinions and we're probably pretty strong about them. What I want to do is show you what I have learned about this pen. So it is a piston filler pen again. It is exactly the same size as the M200. It has a Schmidt nib, so the nib is really quite decent. I can tell you that ahead of time. But, you know, it has some things that both differentiate it somewhat from the Pelikan, but it basically is a clone of the Pelikan M200. It doesn't purport to be a Pelikan. It's not a fake, you know, keeping our terms clear. A fake is one where they are trying to push it off as a Pelikan. It definitely does not do that. They don't say it is, they don't pretend it is, and they've made changes to certain things to make sure that you don't think it is. But I know, again, that's not enough for some people, and so we're again, I'm not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how the pen performs. Does it dry out? Does it write well? Does the flow keep up? All of the things that we normally look at with a pen. Now, I will discuss the design as we go through because that's impossible not to do, and I will compare it to the Pelikan because that also is impossible not to do, and I will also put it up beside another pen which is not a clone at all, but definitely an homage to the very same Pelikan as this pen. And we'll talk about why I think that company does it better. Okay? Okay. Well, then let's spin that camera and get started. All right. Here we have the M200 from Admok. And again, you're not going to be faulted for thinking that is a Pelikan because back here is a Pelikan. And this is what it looks like. So let's look at that first. With a Pelikan M200, you have, obviously, the Pelikans here on the top. Then you have the very famous Pelikan beak clip, a gold trim ring, that very lovely marbled green material, another trim ring, and the piston knob, which I will not twist because this pen is inked. Once you open it up, you have an ink window, nice little grip section, and in this case, a steel nib with gold plating. This is a medium, and this is an excellent writing fountain pen. Really nicely balanced. The quality is fantastic, and it lives up to the Pelikan name and reputation. Just a great pen. Check out that review if you want to know more about it. Then you have this pen. Extremely similar, right? It looks like I just picked up the blue version, but that's not the case at all. But there are differences. For example, instead of a Pelikan at the top, you have what I think is actually a nicely stylized phoenix. And this is a divine mythological bird in Chinese folklore, Feng Huang. My apologies if I said that wrong, and in saying it wrong, said something else. But I do think they did a good job of that. It's different from the Pelikan. It doesn't try to come off as one and actually brings Chinese design and character to the pen, which I think is great, helps differentiate it. But is that enough? Well, probably not. You come down to the clip and you're right back at a very Pelikan-esque design. Not identical, as I'll show you in a second, but because it looks meaner. At least that's what it seems like to me. It looks more aggressive, more pensive than the Pelikan does. So not enough differentiation. This is what I would say. You could have gone with a completely different clip and made this more obviously not a Pelikan. Were that your goal, this is where people are going to say, see, they weren't really trying to make it look different, just different enough to avoid a cease and desist or a lawsuit. And I don't know. I don't think they did enough to avoid all of that, especially when they also still have that Pelikan-shaped crown. Although there are lots of pins out there with the Pelikan-shaped crown, you know, that's not exclusive to them, and I guess they could make that argument. Anyway, you come down to the gold trim ring, and there again, different thickness. The engraving or stamping is not done as nicely as the Pelikan is, so that does definitely look a little bit cheaper, and of course that it actually is cheaper. Then you come down to the material here at the barrel, and this is where I actually really like this pen because what is it? It's Galaxy Blue. You know I like the Galaxy Blue material, and I think it looks really good here, and it was why I bought the pen it is. I was curious. I didn't even review it for 19 months because back when I first got it, it's so similar to the Pelikan that I just didn't see the point, really. But I do enjoy that Galaxy Blue material. I was also just curious, okay, but can the pen actually write? Is it any good? Is it going to leak all over me or anything like that? And the answer to all those things is, yeah, it's actually pretty good. No, it does not leak, and it writes quite well. No problems there whatsoever. Anyway, we come down to that gold trim ring and the piston knob. Now, I haven't filled. Now, I just cleaned this pen out, so it is empty. And what you will notice is that you can use a tool. It was not included with this pen, but it is included with the other Admok that I'll be reviewing soon. So I do have the tool that I need for that, and you can clean it out. Now, I didn't do that. I just pulled the nib and feed, and these don't unscrew. They just pull out. Their friction fit, and you can pull that out and clean the pen. I think in this case, it would be good every now and then to do a deep clean and go ahead and unscrew that piston and service that with some silicone grease and things like that. I'll do that next time. But just flushing it out was really quite simple. There is no ink window on this pen, so it doesn't have that advantage. There is an ink window on the Pelikan, a little hard to see right there, but it does exist, just as there is an ink window on another pen I want to compare it to. So this is the Scrikks pen, which is an homage to the Pelikan M200. And it is a piston filler pen just like it. It has a little bit of design language similarity, but nothing that's quite exactly the same. The length is about the same. The diameter is smaller. The pen is much lighter. This is just resin pen, but does not have, any beautiful acrylic. This comes in solid colors, and it is a good pen. It's made in Turkey. It does not have the crown. It does not have a bird at the top. And as you can see, they've created their own clip design. And this is the kind of thing I wish Admok had done. Make the pen your own while still showing some respect and homage to the Pelikan pen, but in a way that is very distinctive. It has this tapered down trim ring, which looks different from both of the other pens, and then no trim ring down by the piston knob. When you open this one up, you have a very nice ink window, the best of the three as far as I'm concerned, an elongated grip section, a little bit shorter nib, and this pen too is a gold-plated steel nib and writes really well. Been very reliable pen. I can show you, because of that ink window, how this works if you're not familiar with a piston filler. So you would turn the knob counterclockwise, and that expels the air, and you see that piston, hence the name, comes down, and then when you go back clockwise, it creates a vacuum and draws in the ink. Very easy filling system. I think they're generally pretty easy to maintain and clean. And I like it. They usually have a pretty good ink capacity and make for good pens. Anyway, the Scrikks version of this is, if you're not looking to get a Pelikan, the Scrikks, I highly recommend. Neat little pen from Turkey. And because it's from Turkey, it gets to be on my pens around the world list, because that makes it just a little bit more unusual in the fountain pen world. Now let's go back to the M400 for a second and take a look at the nib. It is a Schmidt nib. I really like Schmidt nibs, especially their fines and their mediums and their broads. Actually, I guess I just really like Schmidt nibs. They have just kind of traditional scrolling. They have a nice big M right in the middle of that nib to remind you of what tipping point this particular pen has, and it writes nicely, smoothly, and is a good way to go. As I mentioned, it's friction fit with this plastic feed, easy to remove and clean up. This one just came out of the Sonic cleaner, which you can see did a really good job of sprucing that feed out. While we're here, by the way, here is that grip section, and I do find that to be really comfortable. Ergonomics on this pen are great. It is a small pen, so if you have larger hands, it's not huge. But, if you post it, which it does very nicely and securely, it then becomes a moderately sized fountain pen and not back weighted at all. I think is a great pen to write with. And I'd say the same for the Pelikan and for the Scrikks as well. Now, as far as the design goes, I think it looks really good, but all that credit goes to Pelikan. They don't get any credit for this at Admok, except for the design, I guess, of that Phoenix, which I do think looks cool on the finial. All right, for our size comparison today, I'm going to leave out the M200 because it's identical in size to the Admok M400. Then we have from Turkey, the Scrikks 419, and then from Japan, the Pilot Prera, and we have the Diamond Mini TWSBI from Taiwan, which is one of my favorite pens in this size category. I did think this as I was lining these pens up. Why do we not have a piston-filled Prera in 2026? We should have a piston-filler Prera. It would fix all the problems with pilot converters and make the Prera even more knockout pen than it is right now. Anyway, you can see there's not a lot of size difference. That 419 from Scrikks is the thinnest of these pens. They each have a different design and a different size and things and a different feel, but they're all pretty similar too at the same time. And their nibs are also all quite similar, although you will find that Pilot has a tighter Japanese-style crisp nib than these others, which all have pretty much a Western-sized nib. Now, when you uncap these pens, there is a larger variation in size, and they're all small. So as you come down that Prera, you don't think about it as being such a small pocket pen, but it really is, even though its diameter is really not that small. It is a small pen. All of these are fine writing in this way if you're going to do quick notes or if you have small hands, but you're probably going to write with most of these pens posted. Now, all of these pens post well. They kind of have to in this size range because so many people are going to write with them posted. And here, that M400 is the longest pen just by a nose past that Scrikks. Both of those get you a moderately sized fountain pen once they're posted. Really well balanced, no issue there. The Prera, still a pretty short pen and the shortest of the bunch, but I find it perfectly fine and very usable and a great pen, especially if you're going to put it in a shirt pocket where it has a shallow pocket or maybe other ways you're carrying that. You need it to be a little bit shorter. It is fantastic for that. And then the TWSBI Mini is actually a screw-on cap, incredibly secure, but not quite as quick on and off of the posting as these other pens. Now, just before we get to the writing sample, I did mention earlier that I have the larger version of this pen ready for an upcoming review, and that is the M800. And this is the size of that pen. So if you're not into small pens, but you like the look of this one, stay tuned for the M800 review. All right, let's get to our writing test. And I didn't mention how many turns it takes, but it's just one turn to get that cap off. Some of you will really like that. It's a medium nib, good wetness. I really like the saturation of this blue ink. It is a Noodler's ink, and it is Liberty's Elysium. What's on the menu tonight? Let's talk dinner. I haven't had lunch yet, and I am starving. Tonight we're having London broil. I've never made that before. A salad. And of course, a little bit of iced tea because the weather has warmed up and, it's Texas. So that's what we do. Speaking of what we do, how about a little bit of a speed test, okay? Does the feed keep up? Ready? I pushed a little hard there, didn't I? Yeah, no problem. Don't know what I did there, but no problem whatsoever. This pen has been very, very reliable and it writes very well. Never an issue. Every time that I ever want to use it, it's just always ready. Always ready. Doesn't dry out, doesn't ever leak. It just has been very reliable. Whatever I want to think about this pen and the copying they've done of Pelikan, and I definitely have some wants there, I have to admit they really have made an excellent pen. It's not a Pelikan excellence level pen, but for a pen that's actually cheaper than that Prera or that TWSBI or even the Scrikks, it is really, really good. If you're just wanting a good-looking pen with some galaxy blue, some classic design feet, and a Schmidt nib, just an inexpensive pen, it does work. It's just whether or not, you're okay with the whole clone thing. And I understand, I get it that some of you definitely are not going to be there for that. And I really do mean it, that I wish they had just taken some of the steps that Scrikks did. They pay respect to the Pelikan, but do it in a way that is a language all their own at the same time, and I think they do a really great job. So if you kind of want the form factor in the same price range, try out that Scrikks. You won't get the acrylic for that. For that, you got to go with the Admok or something. But anyway, I was curious to see how does this pen actually write, and in truth, it has written very well and been incredibly reliable and a great pen for its price. It is what it is. It is what it is, and it's also not what it is not. If you want a Pelikan, go buy a Pelikan. This one has been excellent. Highly recommend the M200. What do you think? What do you think about the pen? If you have one, share your experiences. If you have the Scrikks, share what you think about that pen, because I'm curious about other people's impressions. I know what I think, but I'd love to know what you think. And as always, thank you. Thank you for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, all those good things. And God bless you. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the comments and in the next review.